what would a week of training for someone like her, recreational, just wanting to be fit, strong, get a bit leaner, what would a kind of training program look like in terms of the different modalities or type of exercise, sort of frequency, duration, and how might that change, I guess, week to week based on her menstrual cycle?
Okay, so if we look at the first week of the menstrual cycle, I'm going to just do an assumption that she doesn't have any really bad cramping. Or maybe we could say the first 2 days, she has really bad cramping and doesn't feel like doing much. So in those first 2 days, a lot of women are like, ugh. And if you do a couple of 20-second intervals, so not Tabata, but really high intensity, full gas kind of sprint interval training, and it can be running up your stairs just so you get those 20-second bursts, it creates a growth hormone and anti-inflammatory response, which then feeds forward to reducing cramping. And if you do that for your cycles, your body starts to learn that we don't have to have as much intensity of the cramping and inflammation. So it's a good modality to kind of get through the cramping and still kind of feel like you're working on your fitness. On day 3, still bleeding, but she feels fantastic. So day 3 all the way up to ovulation, this is where we can hit it hard. So we're looking from a resistance standpoint. We look at 2 to 3 times a week of compound movements. So one of those can be more Olympic lifting and power-based movements. 2 of those can be, a total body, where we're looking at reps of 6 to 8. Mm-hmm. So we're looking again in that power phase because we're trying to get that strength and speed, because this is where the body really can take that on. From a cardiovascular standpoint, this is where you can also do high intensity interval training, but real high intensity interval training where your intervals are 80% or more max. You're hitting, 1 to 3 minutes for your interval. You could also do some sprint interval training if you wanted, but it's all about that top end quality, and it's not doing it every day. So we're looking at, 2 to 3 lifting sessions that are properly designed for power. And you can look at 2, at the most 3 high intensity sessions, and you can back that up after you're lifting if you want, or before you're lifting if you're doing sprint interval. So it's not a lot of time, right? And then after ovulation, we start to look more from an aerobic capacity standpoint. So this is where your lifting becomes more total body, but you're falling into maybe 4 sets of 8, no more than 8. From a cardiovascular standpoint, you can start looking at steady state work. So you're doing 5 or so minutes of steady state work. And then about the 5 days before the period starts, this is where we look at deloading, where you don't want to disrupt your pattern that you have during your week of going to the gym and when you go to the gym. So this is where we look at technique under the bar, working on drills, working on mobility, doing a lot of recovery modalities, so that you are working with the fact that your immune system has changed, your neurotransmitters are making you a little bit more tired, your body's in a breakdown state and an inflammatory state. So let's work on that technique. Let's work on the cognition. Let's work on the skills. So then when we hit it hard in the next follicular phase, that feeds forward into better lifting technique, better running technique.
Got you. Okay, great. So just to summarize that, you had day 1 to when there may be cramping, that's utilizing that sort of HIIT tool, that 20-second HIIT, proper HIIT protocol. Mm-hmm. Then you had day 3 to ovulation, which is where your training intensity goes up. You're hitting it a bit harder. That resistance training in that sort of 6 to 8 rep range. And I'm assuming that you're choosing a weight such that when you get to 6 to 8 reps, you only have a few in reserve. Is that kind of the goal there?
Actually trying to get to fatigue in that.
Okay.
Because if we look after ovulation, we're hitting the 8, that's where you have a few in reserve. Okay. But we're really trying to get to that failure for a little bit of hypertrophy, but just that neuromuscular connection for stronger strength and power.
Okay. So you're working really hard there. Intensity's up. After ovulation is when the intensity comes off. It's more sort of aerobic, and you've got 4 sets of 8 in terms of resistance training, but you have a few reps in reserve, steady state cardiovascular training, and then 5 days before period starts is when you're deloading and really taking the foot off the accelerator. The intensity comes down. If Alex is thinking, I usually do functional training, and you use the word real hit there, and I had a bit of a chuckle on the inside. So, and I'm pretty familiar with the sort of hit literature, and I've always chuckled myself at how different the protocols are in the literature versus, say, sometimes how we see it in the community. Is there a problem if Alex said, look, I just go and do a 45-minute sort of functional hit training session 4 or 5 times a week? Would there be a sort of problem with doing that versus what you've just put forward?
Not really a problem, but you're not maximizing what you can get out of it. If you are looking from the social construct of, I want to go to these classes because I see my friends, I know the instructor, it's a time in my diary where it's just me and I can relax. Remember that you are paying for this class, so you want to make it work for you. So if it's a 45-minute boot camp functional training type thing, you can change your weights to make them lighter or heavier. You can change the intensity of the sprints that they have you do to work according to your cycle, right? Bear in mind also, the reason why I want her to track her cycle first is so that she can see what days she feels really, really powerful and strong and which days maybe not so much. So she can work that in too. Because I've just given like the general schematic of how we work with the immune system and metabolism stuff. But knowing that some women feel super fantastic right around ovulation and other women feel flat for a couple of days and then they feel bulletproof. Same with a few days right before their period starts. Those hormones have already dropped, just haven't started bleeding yet. And so they feel fantastic. Use that to your advantage as well. So it's that individual scope within it that you're putting into that generalization. And so that also comes into the classes that you're already going to, because I don't want to take away someone's soul food of socialization and having fun and that kind of stuff. But within that class, use it to your body's advantage. Just don't go, oh, okay, we're doing lots of box jumps or box step ups with a lightweight. It's like, okay, I know I can hit it hard, so I'm going to use twice the weight that they're recommending, and I'm going to do maybe 3 less reps. So really, you're still working within the class confines, but you're working for your own body.
Right. Yeah. I must say, I usually train in a kind of standard gym environment, but over summer I was down visiting my brother and I joined into some of these kind of community-based classes, and I did find the community, the social aspect really enjoyable, so I can see how that is a draw card.
It's motivating, yeah.
It is, and I can see how it can really help with adherence for a certain sort of type of personality who may not otherwise get into the gym by themselves and maybe finds that mundane or intimidating.
It's that accountability factor of showing up for your friends and you're all like in it together. Yeah.